Hi, everybody. Welcome to English Digest. I'm Tom.
Hi, I'm Stephanie.
Today, we're going to have some fun in our fun unit, and we're talking about playing cards in today's program. Playing cards, a deck of cards that has 52 cards arranged in 4 suits, and there are 13 cards in each suit. But, we've been playing cards for a long time. I used to play gin rummy with my grandmother, and one way to kill time is to play solitaire, which is a game you can play by yourself.
Yeah.
And, of course, if you're gambling, you can play poker, or if you want some, skills, you could play bridge or pinochle or stuff like that. My mother was a member of a bridge club, for example. But in any case, I was always curious as to where these cards came from. What is the history of the cards? Who invented them? And why are they popular pretty much all over the world?
It's kind of fun to find out the history behind different things in our lives. And this one, of course, is going to go all the way back to China. We're going to get started, talk about the history of playing cards and what, how they got from one area of the world to another. It's kind of interesting, isn't it? We're going to get started, and we're going to read through, and then we'll be back.
The history of playing cards is a fascinating tale that spans hundreds of years. Although there's some debate about who invented them, many experts believe they originated in China. Records from the Tang Dynasty describe Princess Tongchang using cards to play the leaf game with her family. It is believed that Muslim traders then took playing cards from China to the Middle East. There, people changed the cards' designs and grouped them into 4 categories: coins, sticks, swords, and cups. By the time playing cards reached Europe, they came in standard 52-card decks. However, the French modified the cards once more. They created the diamonds, spades, clubs, and hearts that are widely used today. Many individual playing cards have interesting stories behind them. Take the Ace of Spades, for example. It's always placed on the top of a new deck because of the English government's former taxation system. Officials stamped the ornate Ace of Spades once the playing card's tax had been paid. As for jacks, they weren't included in early decks. Originally, decks had knight or knave cards. However, the abbreviation KN on the corner of these cards was easily confused with the K for king. Using J for jack was much easier. Perhaps the most mysterious card of all features the King of Hearts, the only king pictured without a mustache. He's also called the Suicide King because he's sticking a sword through his head. One theory suggests the card was based on a clean-shaven king who'd killed himself. However, the differences are likely due to careless mistakes by ancient card makers. Solving every mystery hidden in these decks probably isn't in the cards, but it's still fun to guess what they represent. Okay, everybody, let's discuss the contents of today's lesson. It's our fun unit, and there are many ways to have fun. It seems to me nowadays people pretty much enjoy their games with their phones. I see lots of people gathered at tables, and each of them is playing his or her own game on their phone. They're probably playing separate games. I suppose they could be playing a game that is like together on the internet or something like that.
Yeah, you can do that.
But in the past, of course, we didn't have smartphones, and people would often play various games like cards or Monopoly or backgammon or chess or whatever. And I suppose there still are people playing cards. It's still a tradition that is around.
It sure is. In the olden days when I was growing up, there were no computerized games. I think video games were starting to come out when I was a little older, but we played a lot of card games and board games like Monopoly, Risk, checkers, things like that. But card games are awfully fun. Now, in my particular family, we didn't really play with the cards we're going to be describing, but we played with cards called Rook. Do you know rook? Yeah.
Yeah, I've heard of that. Yeah.
Similar.
Haven't played it, but...
Yeah, old maid, go fish, crazy eights, things like that. We're going to talk about the history, though, behind these playing cards. And here it says it has spanned hundreds of years if you span a certain amount of time. It just means you extend from one point to another. We'll often talk about someone's arm span. You know, I've heard that if you put your arms out on either side and hold them out straight, it matches your height, how tall you are. I've never tested that. But yeah, I looked at someone who was doing that the other day, and he's 6'4", I think, and I thought, wow, he's really long arms, so maybe it's true. But we're going to talk about how we've had cards for hundreds and hundreds of years.
Indeed, and so span here again means to cover the distance between 2 points. I could say, for example, the Guandu Bridge spans the Danshui River in Guandu there. Okay,
yeah.
So it spans the river, it goes over the river, it connects the shores on the opposite sides of the Danshui River.
Or my singing experience spans 30 years. So it goes, you know, way back when I started singing till now. So yeah, you can use it to talk about extending from one place to another or time that lasts that long. We have a pretty popular saying, short attention span. If you have a short attention span, you can't focus on things very long. And supposedly in today's society, teens are having a difficult time concentrating or focusing a long time because they're used to playing video games and things moving quickly.
Indeed. So I should also mention that we're talking about playing cards. If you're talking about the cards themselves, that's the accent there, playing cards. But then if you talk about the act of playing cards, you'd say playing cards. Let's play cards, for example. And I should also mention that here in Taiwan, you often refer to those cards as poker cards,撲克牌. I always hear that all the time. We don't call them that. Poker is just one game of many games you can play with those cards. We always refer to these as playing cards. Poker is just a game amongst many of them. And when you're preparing to play a game of cards, you need to shuffle the deck or shuffle the cards, as it says in the title of our article, Shuffling Through the History of Playing Cards. That's what you do. I think in Chinese you say 洗牌, wash the cards. We don't say that in English. We say shuffle the cards, which means to mix them up. The old CD players, for example, would offer the shuffle function. You could play a CD and they would play the songs in a random order. Track 3, track 8, track 1, track 9, etc. That would shuffle the songs.
iTunes still does that. There's a function where it's just shuffle. So it goes in a random order. And also the little tiny iPod was called the Shuffle iPod, if you remember. So yeah, shuffling, mixing those cards. The dealers who play cards for a living, or at least help others gamble, especially in Las Vegas. They are really cool shufflers. It's fun to watch them shuffle because they're really fast.
I've never gone to Vegas before.
Oh, I have, but
it's closer to where you live.
Yeah, I'm very close to Vegas. So let's head back to the history of cards. It's a fascinating tale. It's a really interesting story because it spans hundreds of years. Although there's some debate about who invented them, sometimes with things like this, cultures or countries always want to say, oh, we had it first. We thought of it. It's our invention. We're going to talk about what most experts believe, though, and that's that playing cards originated or began in China.
Originated, right. I could say Buddhism originated in India. That's where it came from. So lots of people conclude that, yes, playing cards probably came from China. They originated in China. Records from the Tang Dynasty describe Princess Tongchang using cards to play the leaf game with her family. I'm not familiar with this princess, but I guess there's some reference from the Tang Dynasty. Of course, Chinese history is usually divided up into its dynasties. The Qin Dynasty, the Han Dynasty, the Sui, the Song Dynasty, etc. This is the Tang Dynasty, the dynasty that most people are proud of. That's when China was its strongest there. there. And there was a princess then, and some reference said she was playing something with a leaf game, which is probably a direct Chinese translation here. And it is believed that Muslim traders then took playing cards from China to the Middle East. So Muslims, of course, people who believe in Islam here, they were living in the west of China, I suppose, and they had the game, and they were trading with the Middle East, and they thought, hey, these cards from China are pretty cool. Let's take them with us to the Middle East and introduce them to those people there.
Yeah, that often happened in history. It still happens today with trade. You know, you'll have new products, new inventions and devices pop up in your country for sale because in another part of the world, they have already been selling this particular product. But nowadays, we call it import-export. But back then, they had these merchants, these traders who would go from one part of the world to another and try to exchange or trade goods. And that's how we got playing cards from China to the Middle East. And there, people changed the cards' designs and grouped them into 4 categories. These are the 4 categories: coins, sticks, swords, and cups. I wanted to mention for grammar purposes, if you have a colon, those 2 dots there, the next word following it, if it isn't a complete sentence, which these aren't, it's lowercase or 小写. But if it's a complete sentence, it would be 大写. But that's for people who write. If you're talking about categories, guys, you're talking about groups of things that share similar characteristics. I know the game. What's the game where they answer the different questions on TV? And Alex, Jeopardy. Yeah, they have different categories of questions like music, history, sports. Those are different categories of questions. Here, these are different categories of card designs that you see within that deck of cards. That's the measure word for the cards, a deck of cards. So we've got coins, sticks, swords, and cups. They've changed a lot. We're going to talk more about the history when we get back. But first, we're going to listen to our Chinese teacher.
Hello everyone, my name is Tina. 我们今天要谈论的主题呢，跟 playing cards 有关。首先我们来看到第一个空格的句子，它写着 Although there's some blank one about who invented them, many experts believe they originated in China. 在这里呢，我们首先来看看第一题的4个选项。A. Threat 威胁 B. Received 收据 C. Plot阴谋 D. Debate 争议。这句话的意思是呢，虽然有一些关于谁发明纸牌的怎么样，但是许多的专家认为呢，纸牌是源自于中国。后面的文章告诉我们呢，大家会有一些争论跟讨论，所以在这里第一题的标准答案符合句意，我们就选择 D 选项 Debate 有争议的意思。第二个空格Blank 2 is believed that Muslim traders then took playing cards from China to the Middle East. 在这里要考考同学文法的句型概念，在后面有个 that 所引导的子句，在英文的文法里面呢，我们可以用 it当作是虚主词来代替后面 that 所引导的名词子句，所以我们常说 it is believed 就可以解释成为一般相信，或者是常常看到的 it is said然后再用 that 加子句就可以解释成为据说。所以第二题的意思是说呢，一般相信就是穆斯林商人将纸牌从中国带到中东，所以第二题考的是文法句型的概念，标准答案就选择 C, it.
We're going to take a quick break. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Okay, everybody, let's continue with our lesson. Now we're talking about playing cards, and to summarize, most experts conclude that cards probably originated in China. Muslim traders then took them there, from there to the Middle East, and then there they grouped the cards into 4 categories: coins, sticks, swords, and cups. And by the time playing cards reached Europe, they came in standard 52-card decks. Of course, a group of 52 cards together is called a deck of cards. Do you have a deck of cards? Let's play some rummy or something like that. So by the time when they got to Europe, by the time, well, that reminds me of that old Glenn Campbell song, By the time I get to Phoenix, she'll be rising. By the time when I get there, etc.
Right.
And this is standard, okay, which means it's pretty much accepted all over the world. There are some variations, of course. Pinochle, I think, has a different number of cards for that particular game, but most decks for most games come with 52 cards. Again, 4 suits of 13 cards apiece. However, the French modified the cards once more. So, okay, the cards got to Europe there, and then the French, the people in France, modified or changed the cards. If you modify something, that means you make a change to something, usually to try to improve it. Maybe you had an old computer, like, say, Dell computers, for example, had a model, and then they made some changes for the next year's model. They modified the computer.
Or maybe you've written a proposal for your boss and your boss makes some changes and hands it back to you and says, oh, I made some minor modifications. So modification is the noun form of the verb to modify. So, yeah, we use that quite often, actually. You can modify different devices. If you're really handy with electronics or the computer, like Tom used as an example, you're able to modify that device or whatever you're working on after you buy it, which is kind of cool. You can change it a little bit so it fits your needs a little more. Well, the French thought, these cards are pretty good, but we could make them even better. So they made some changes to the cards once more. They created the diamonds, spades, clubs, and hearts that are widely used today. I'm not very familiar with playing cards of this type. We didn't play them when I was young growing up. My grandma thought it was bad to use these cards because they were used for gambling, but that's a long story. Anyway, diamonds, obviously, it just looks like a diamond. A spade, when I see a spade, I think of a shovel that we use to dig in the soil or the dirt. Clubs are actually, I think, like a clover.
Yeah.
Have you ever seen a 3-leaf clover?
Kind of plant,
so, yeah, I think of that. The Irish love clovers because they're lucky. So, and hearts look like hearts as well.
And many individual playing cards have interesting stories behind them. So if you talk about the individual playing cards, then there are often some interesting stories. This, of course, is referring to the royal family. Mostly the numbered cards, you probably can't get many stories out of them, except for spade. We'll talk about that in a second. But in any case, let's take the ace of spades, for example. Okay, so that's like value of 1, but we don't say 1, we say ace. I've got an ace of spades. I've got an ace of hearts here, for example. It's always placed on the top of a new deck because of the English government's former taxation system. Taxation is when a government gathers money from the public, usually, to pay for the government's expenses. There are income taxes, for example, or sales tax, or business tax, or gasoline tax, or cigarette tax.
I love that we don't have sales tax here.
True, yeah.
Love it.
I have sales tax in my state. It's such a stupid thing.
Yeah,
but in any case, this is taxation, how you tax people. And the English government, I guess, did that. The ace of spades is the first card because there was a stamp there that looks like that. And so now we have the ace of spades at the top of the deck.
We sure do. So many individual playing cards have interesting stories behind them. So we've got different types of playing cards. I mentioned a couple that I grew up with. Rook, Old Maid, which is for little kids. It's kind of fun. And Uno is another one. And then the standard playing cards, which have these 4 suits in them. I always want to say sweet. 4 suits in them. Individual just means each separate. So each separate type of playing card. So we're looking at these individual playing cards and their stories behind them. Take, for instance, the ace of spades, for example. Now, the ace of spades, Tom, you're going to have to explain that a little more. That is what? The ace of spades?
Well, it's basically the first card. It's one value. It kind of depends on the game you're playing. Sometimes it's high. But yeah, like for the royal flush, in poker, you'd need to have an ace, king, queen, jack, and 10.
Oh, those cards together. Okay.
Right. So yeah, it depends on the game again, but that's ornate, which is kind of iconic. The ace of spades, of course, when we think of cards, we oftentimes think of the ace of spades. It's kind of representative. And then we've got jacks. So as for jacks, they weren't included in early decks. So yeah, jack, that's kind of weird. I used to ask my parents, hey, how come it's king, queen, and not prince? Or not princess?
Princess, yeah.
Why can't that guy be called the prince? No, it's called the jack. And nobody really knew, and I'm not really sure now. In fact, I didn't know up until today's lesson. We just called it the jack. And that's the only place you refer to that card as a jack. Early decks of cards did not have them. Originally, decks had knight or knave cards. Okay, so that's a knight, okay, or knave, which is kind of similar, I guess, K-N-A-V-E. However, the abbreviation KN on the corner of these cards was easily confused with the K for king. So, yeah, knave or knight starts with K.
That makes sense.
They'd put KN there, but a lot of times people would confuse that, because the card has a K there for the king and a Q for the queen and a J for the jack. They used to have KN for the jack, which used to be called knave or knight, and that was confusing. And so that's probably why they changed it.
Yeah, maybe someone had a friend named Jack, and he suggested, well, instead of using the confusing K or KN, let's just use J. Kind of looks like my friend Jack's face on that card.
Could be.
I like the Jack. It's kind of fun. Now, perhaps the most mysterious card of all features the King of Hearts. The only king pictured... Oh, I've never noticed this without a mustache. Oh, fun. So if it's mysterious, guys, it just means you don't have enough information to really know much about it. And if something's mysterious, people are very curious about mysterious things. They want more information, but it's often difficult to get information about something that's mysterious. If someone describes you as being kind of mysterious, it's kind of a fun thing to be described as being. Well, this particular King of Hearts, it doesn't have a mustache on the king, and it's also called the Suicide King because he's sticking a sword through his head.
Ooh.
Kind of violent there. Suicide, of course, refers to the act of killing oneself. One theory suggests the card was based on a clean-shaven king who'd killed himself. If you're clean-shaven, it just means you don't have a beard or mustache. You shave your face every day.
Right, so he's got a mustache, or at least he doesn't have a mustache, hair on the top of his lip. And suicide, of course, means to kill yourself, like the writer San Mao committed suicide many years ago. But again, this king is clean-shaven. However, the differences are likely due to careless mistakes by ancient card makers. They drew it this way, and the mistake was not corrected, so the card continues to this day. And solving every mystery hidden in these decks probably isn't in the cards, but it's still fun to guess what they represent. Ha ha ha, in the cards.
Good.
If you say something is in the cards, you're saying that the potential for that to happen is really high, or there is destiny for that thing to happen.
Yeah. Well, something that's always in the cards is a chance to listen to our Chinese teacher. We're going to listen now.
接下来我们来看第三个空格的句子，它写着 By the time playing cards reached Europe, they came blank 3 standard 52 card decks. By the time 在这里是解释成为到了什么什么的时候，到了这个纸牌传到欧洲的时候，他们怎么样？是一副标准的52张牌。在这里我们要选择一个介系词来搭配前面的动词 came。 在英文里面我们说 come in 后面加上了尺寸大小，就解释成为有怎么样的商品货物，或者是可以买到什么的意思。所以这一句是要指的等到纸牌传到欧洲的时候，他们就有一副标准的52张纸牌。所以这一题根据句意，第3题的标准答案我们就选择 B 选项 in。 接着来看一下第4个空格的句子。Officials stamped the ornate ace of spades blank for the playing cards tax had been paid。在当时呢，我们英国的政府早期有税收的制度，所以呢怎么样，然后官员们 officials 他们会在牌上盖上装饰华丽的黑桃 A。 在这里的 ornate 当作形容词，就是有装饰华丽的。什么时候要盖上黑桃 A 呢？就是一旦呢这个扑克牌的税已经被付了，那么盖上黑桃 A 就代表已经完成了这样子课税的制度。所以在这里搭配文意，第4题 A 选项 until 直到， B though 虽然， C unless 除非， D once 一旦呢纸牌的税已经支付，那么官员就会在牌上盖上这个装饰华丽的黑桃 A。搭配文意，第4题的标准答案我们就选择 D once。 第5个空格的句子写着 However, the abbreviation KN on the corner of these cards was easily blank 5 with the K for king。 当时呢在这个牌角落的 KN 的缩写abbreviation 非常容易跟代表国王的 K 怎么样呢？所以后来呢就直接用 J 来代替 Jack 这个牌了。那么这样子的缩写 KN 跟代表国王的 K 是很容易混淆的，所以搭配文意，第5题的标准答案就选择 A confused。 第6个空格的句子However, the differences are likely blank 6 careless mistakes by ancient card makers。 在这里谈到呢，这样子的差异有很可能是怎么样？古代纸牌制造者的疏失。我们来看一下第6题的选项 A due to 因为， B concerned about 关心， C fond of 喜欢， D responsible for 为什么负责任。会有这样子的情形，提到前面红心 K 呢，有可能这样的差异是因为古代制牌者他的疏失。搭配前后文意，第6题我们就选择 A due to。第7个空格 Solving every mystery hidden in these decks probably isn't in the cards。 在这里的 in the cards 指的是有成功把握的，或者是可能的。如果你想要解开每个藏在扑克牌中的谜题，也许不太可能， But it's still fun to guess。 但是呢，你去猜看看它们代表的是什么意义，也是相当有趣的。那么在这 represent 是代表，它们代表什么意义？搭配文意，第7题的标准答案就选择 C what。 OK， 以上就是今天的课文讲解，谢谢收听。
Okay, everybody, that brings us to the end of our lesson for today. Thank you for joining us in today's program. Don't use those cards to gamble. It's a bad thing. Just have fun with cards. Play some innocent games with your friends. From all of us here at English Digest, I'm Tom.
I'm Stephanie.
Goodbye.
Bye.